Good. Namaste, everyone. It is me, Nina Sachs, here with you from Yoga Awakening Africa. And today I am delighted to be speaking to Claire from Claire to Clarity, who has literally just launched her new Living Ayurveda Cookbook, which I am super excited to get my hands on when I get down to South Africa this festive season. So Claire, lovely to have you here. I'm so glad that we get a chance to chat and connect. And I'd love to just hear a little bit about you and kind of like your story and how you got into Ayurveda and where you're at now, because you're kind of like, I know you from like the yoga scene and Joburg, and somehow you managed to navigate into Ayurveda from there. So
Yes,
welcome. Yes. And I'd love to hear your story.
Thanks, Nina, for hosting me. I appreciate the opportunity to connect. So wonderful that we have these opportunities. As my cookbook started as a lockdown project, and initially meeting with my coach online to help me to write the book. So wonderful that we have these opportunities to connect with you in Mars, I believe, and I'm here in Johannesburg.
So we'll get to your story in a moment. So this kind of like got all started during lockdown. It was like a lockdown project of yours.
Yes, absolutely. So shall I digress to a little bit about me, and then we'll get to the lockdown story. Yes. I was born with spina bifida. And that's what brought me onto my current path of discovering yoga, because at 19 years old, my parents, we had the opportunity to operate by way of a spinal fusion.
Okay, why don't you explain to everyone what spinal bifida is for those who don't actually know what it is and what it entails?
In my case, I do have a milder form of spina bifida, so I do need to say that, albeit it has been my, what's given me my superpower, so to speak, because the various roll-on challenges that I've experienced. So I was born, basically spina bifida is in utero, our vertebrae come together and fuse around the spinal cord, okay? And in my case, my lower lumbar are not fused, right, around the spinal cord. So I was born with an open wound, and the body's amazing. It creates a little sac over that wound to prevent the synovial fluid from disappearing, from leaking out when you're born. And so with that, I had hip displacement. So my gait was not right. In school, I couldn't play sport. I did swim. I did life saving in primary school, and then in high school I swam. So that was the only sport that I could do because my gait was not right. I felt a bit lopsy when I ran. And then I was in tremendous pain in my matric year, having to sit and squat, for our exams. And I would be seeing the physiotherapist on a regular basis, have money for the ticket to phone for an appointment and a bus card to go and catch, the bus to go and have my appointment. I got through my matric year through a lot of perseverance. I had learning difficulties because of the synovial fluid that's obviously not running up and down the spine and in our brain, so it caused me some learning difficulties. And so that has been my superpower, because I took matters into my own hands, and instead of the spinal fusion, I discovered yoga. And Iyengar yoga at that. So the Iyengar yoga is what corrected my hip displacement. It corrected my gait, and it gave me beautiful arches because I was wearing orthotics as well throughout my school career. And I had very thick glasses, by the way, so that I could see.
It was not the most, should we say, comfortable time growing up.
I was not happy in my skin, and lots of embarrassment, and like kids are nasty, and I've been through all of that, coupled with the learning difficulties. So one has a choice, and I chose to allow that, to empower me rather than to disempower me.
And that's such an important thing, Claire, that you're saying is like, there's so many people who have challenges. Yours, like with spinal bifida, someone else has something else. And there's just an array of, issues and challenges that we all go through. We all have them.
Yes.
And it's just choosing, like, am I going to turn into a victim myself? Or am I actually going to use it for the good? Like you're saying, turn it into a superpower and do something positive with what my situation is.
Yes.
I love that you say that, like, you've turned that into your superpower. Sorry, carry on. I just had to bring that up because it is so important that people realize, like, you can actually do something. Like, you're not a victim of your circumstance. You're always capable of making a choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're here to inspire through others, yourself through your journey and those that you interview, myself through my experience. We're here. This is my dharma, in that I had this experience, and through sort of collecting myself and discovering myself in the process, then I can just shine the light and be a living example as to how one can overcome challenges and turn that negative into positive. And I love the word superpower. And it's probably because I listen to Joe Dispenza, but I also have a young boy who is into superheroes. So that aside. So at my matric year, struggling with my spina bifida, seeing the physiotherapist regularly. Sadly, I didn't qualify or get a matric, at least an exemption to get into university. Instead, the only option for me, if I wanted to study reflexology, as I'd already discovered reflexology in my high school career, was to go off and study beauty therapy. So I qualified at least I matriculated in 96, and I qualified as a beautician, reflexologist, and aromatherapist in 99. Because that's ultimately what I was aspiring to learn, my reflex and aromatherapy, quite naturally I qualified with exemption. So, extremely good marks, because I was looking,
that's what you knew what you wanted to do.
Exactly. Yes. And so throughout my high schooling career, I had learning difficulties, but I clearly didn't have learning difficulties when I got to study what I wanted to study. And that is my vocation.
Yeah, and I think this can be so important for parents and for kids and teens to also just realize and notice that, we often are put in like the schooling system, and this is the system. And if you don't get your A's or you don't get your matric exemption, then you're not as smart or you're not as good, and it's got nothing to do with that. It's as soon as a kid, or whoever, even as an adult, if we haven't had the opportunity, are put in a situation where we get to be passionate about what we're interested in, then we are going to skyrocket. I mean, it's taken me nearly 40 years to get there, to find, where my passion is with coaching. It's a journey, but when you find it, you know it, and you're able to do so well. And then your regular school curriculum or, direction that they put you in, it's good for a certain amount of people, but it's not for everyone. And I know, like with Ayurveda, it's kind of like the Vata, the Pittas, the Kappas, or like it's very Pitta-driven school curriculum.
Yes,
not really.
Absolutely.
The Vatas or the Kappas, who learn in a different way, and that's unfortunate because, Anyway, so sorry, carry on before.
No problem at all. And I'm a parent myself, so I am now seeing, life through different lenses as a parent, and how we can navigate through the knowledge that I've gained with Ayurveda, to then, assist my son on his journey. And fortunately, the world is changing, and we can create that for our children. So, when I qualified, well, during my 3 years of study, I then discovered Reiki, and I'd already been reminded of my ability to heal myself. I had a lump on my breast in high school, and I healed that intentionally. I was terrified actually of going for a biopsy and a mammogram. So, like circumstances in my younger life empowered me to then choose and navigate towards the studies that I eventually did. So I became a Reiki master within those 3 years that I was studying as a beautician, reflexologist, and aromatherapist. And then once qualified, I then set out to work, and continued to practice yoga. So yoga, as I said, is what corrected my gait and improved on everything about me. And then in 2007, I met Sri Ravi Shankar. And I was meant to be going off to Pune to study and to finally I was on the list for 5 years to go to Pune and do my Iyengar yoga training.
Okay. And just to clarify for those who don't know, so Sri Ravi Shankar, he's the guy who started Art of Living.
That is correct.
In Bangalore, I think is the main term. Yeah.
That is correct. So he came to South Africa. And I did the Art of Living course, and I was blown away by that knowledge. I was already very solid in my yogic practice, and now I got pranayama practices to add into my toolkit. As the superwoman that I am, we've got a toolkit of various weapons we can use for our well-being and our self-knowledge, and that keeps us in check and in balance. So I'd also done within that year 2007 a first introduction to an Ayurvedic cooking course.
And is this where kind of like that little light was ignited somewhat, and Claire was
absolutely
like, what is this all about?
Absolutely. So I was introduced with it. So that was quite a significant year for me. And I remember a teacher, they have this saying, and it's Guruji's words, like, just come, and it's like, just so flippantly, just come. And I was intending on going to Pune. I was running a beauty practice at the time. I had a couple of staff working for me. So in my mind, in their way, we were all aware of what I had intended on doing. And it was just a matter of changing my course to go to Bangalore and not to Pune. So I went off to Bangalore.
And what in you, can I ask, Kate, had that where you just decided that this option was speaking more to your heart than option B, than option A? Was there something that triggered you? Because
thanks for asking.
Yeah.
This is very, so, and this is my experience. And with respect to the Iyengar training and experience I was going for, I was doing Iyengar yoga 3 times a week. But I was so obsessed about my physical body and the postures and how they should look and be, and by all the instructions that we're given, which were necessary for my condition. Okay, so Iyengar yoga is very, very strict on how we stand and hold a pose and twist and turn and da-di-da. It's necessary if you consider where BKS Iyengar has come from in terms of his own dis-ease and why that yoga was formulated. That science is so strong in the teachings, right? But I would have a very heavy, obsessive compulsive, it was driving my pitta nature. I became obsessive compulsive with my yoga. And then when I met Sri Ravi Shankar, and when I'm meeting these Ayurvedic teachers teaching us cooking, and there's just this flippant, just come, and it was all love and light, and we were moving through the Sudarshan Kriya, we're moving from head to heart, and it became a heartfelt experience. So that is what pulled me into going to the art of living. Is I went from my head and that obsession that I had for teaching a class or participating in a class to just being present. And my heart was full.
I love what you say there, Claire, with this idea is like of just being present, because often we get so caught up with everything that's going up and we try to rationalize why things should be or happen in a certain way. But actually, if we just, like you say, take a step back, breathe, and again, maybe it not be a specific strict breathing practice, but actually connect with the breath in its entirety as it is, without forcing it in any way, that we can then really step into that space of presence and allow the greater kind of like cosmos environment around us to infiltrate us and say, there you go.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was the experience that I had. And then I feel it brought me, and again, this is knowledge that we gain from doing the courses in Art of Living. We're moving from our head into our hearts. So really experiencing what it's like to be in our bodies. And yes, I probably had that experience with Iyengar yoga, but it really vitiated me into my pitta, obsessive compulsiveness, desire to perform the perfect pose, which wasn't then healthy for me. And that's why I chose that path. Went off to Bangalore, and I did my TTC 1 in Bangalore at our Art of Living ashram. Having done a cooking course in South Africa, and then going off to India and being in the ashram and experiencing, we did Shankha Prakshalana, so we did cleansing practices. We were eating Ayurvedic food after our cleansing practices. We had the khichdi and lots of ghee. We'd learnt about neti pot and all of these things, and I was just loving all of these practices, and they supported my body and my dis-ease. So at the time going to India, I had ulcers, maybe because that pitta nature was now elevated, and I'm not saying entirely due to my Iyengar practice, but that pitta nature was elevated, and I had ulcers. And my friends were like, why are you going to off to India? You're going to get parasites. Yeah. And I came back. We had Guruji instructed us to have our Prakriti assessment. I purchased the 3 herbals, Ayurvedic herbal medicine that they prescribed, having done our Shankha Prakshalana, and I came back and I started taking the medicine, and those ulcers went away.
That's kind of like also one of those transition points where you're like, this is kind of like, well, I want to get into this.
Yes, absolutely, because now I'm having the experience that Ayurveda has to offer me. So yoga had supported me in my physical body, yes, in terms of my spine, and then I had some other dis-ease and that manifested, and then Ayurveda supported me in that. So quite naturally, because I'm a beautician and we're doing alternative therapies, and now I'm qualified, because then we qualified in South Africa in our TTC 2 in 2007. So excuse me, I'm getting my dates wrong, but maybe my journey started in 2006, but I did qualify back in South Africa in 2007. And then
did you still kind of like, was yoga still like a big part of you and your life and teaching then, or did you like literally transition straight more into Ayurveda? Did that kind of get your heart, or were they kind of like both there?
Well, I'd only had the Ayurvedic experience and was intrigued to continue studying. Yoga has always been a fundamental of my life since 18, 19 years old. and with the way that I'd set up my practice and what was required of us as teachers back then, we had to do practicums. We had to team up with a teacher in South Africa, because we'd all, from around the world, we've all come to the ashram. We've done our teacher training for TTC1, and then we've go to our home places and we team up with an Art of Living teacher or Sri Sri Yoga teacher, and we are to do our practicum and get experience. And then Krishanji came to, he may have traveled around the world, but he came to South Africa in April, where I did my TTC too. And again, being in that Ayurveda ashram-like environment, where again it's been reaffirmed that this is something that I want to pursue. And having had my Ayurvedic experience in India, and I'm a qualified beautician, reflexologist, aromatherapist with an international certification, I wanted to study further, but India was not my first port of call. I went to Germany instead.
Okay, nice. And I thought
I wanted the comfort. I'm studying in a very strong country.
And I love that you're so honest, Claire, and you say that, because that is important to a lot of people. It's like a lot of people are going to be like, yeah, I don't want to go do ashram life in India, especially not for a long time. And the thing is, like, at least you're being honest and clear with yourself, and I think that's a big thing. Instead of like forcing yourself into an environment that you're really not going to enjoy or like, you're really going to struggle to take in everything you can. Whereas if you can, again, be present and be in that space where you can just relax, you'll be able to absorb so much more. And I think this is what is so important, is like that there is no right or wrong way of studying or doing anything. You've really got to tune in with you and what it is you're needing. Sometimes we're needing more support. Sometimes we've got so much excess, like positive energy and vibrancy and resilience, that we can go out and do different things. It just depends really where we're at.
Absolutely. So my studies took me to, or my inclination took me to Germany. I left in 2008. And I went to do a Ayurvedic course in our German ashram, Bad Antofagast. Again, for the viewers' information, I am of Vata Pitta constitution. So the air and the ether and the fire elements are strong in me. And
Need to think of one like there.
yeah. And I think many yoga teachers are, in fact. And then we hopefully team up with cuff type individuals so that they can ground us, huh?
Exactly. Or marry one or something like that, so that there's at least have a gift that is very grounded.
Yeah, likewise. So so again, just referring to that, with my Pitta nature, I arrive with got my British passport and my international driver's license and my international qualifications. So I'm actually an asset to the ashram, because I can work in the Ayurvedic center without actually having any qualification at that stage. I was there to study and I worked. So I did seva. I got a small stipend, and I was studying and working at the same time. And I developed my unique anti-aging facial massage that combined the marma points, or energy points, that I was learning in the ashram, combining it with my anti-aging facial massage that I may have done on my clients when I was back in South Africa. And we had beautiful Ayurvedic oils to use. So that was my contribution in terms of working in the Ayurvedic center, because I was yet to, be able to qualify in the Abhyanga, which is the hot oil massage, the Shirodhara, which is the oil stream massage to the forehead. As I arrived as a qualified reflexologist, I would perform Pada Abhyanga, Shila Abhyanga, which is hot stone oil massage. And I was studying and learning at the same time.
And just for kind of like those who are listening, like if I mean we know marma points, we're into it. But for those who don't, like what are your marma points?
Okay, so there are said to be 107 marma points throughout the body, 108, and then you including the top of the head. But it's a very sensitive point, and if you consider some monks and some Hindu traditions, they grow like a tuft of hair from that point on the top of the crown of their head. And that is to signify that marma point. So on the face, we've got several marma points which were corresponding with the anti-aging facial massage that I used to do in South Africa. And now I was beginning to learn these points. So these marma points are energy centers. So here's one, a sort of mid-brow. Okay, can you feel like a little indent there?
Yeah.
Can you press? Fantastic. Okay, so we would press these 16 to 18 times, either circularly. So I kind of say 6 times in one direction, and then 6 times in another direction, and then pressing for another 6 times, right? And so that energy center is going to stimulate your eyes. And I'm using that as an example because many of us are in front of our computers for extended hours of the day. And that's a nice one to do to relieve tension, to get the blood circulating, to get the energy flowing to the optic nerve, and to improve on your eyesight as such. Then we have beauty points. So there's, it's called Shringataka Marma. So there's one just at the top of the nose. Can you feel a little indentation? Okay, similarly, you would press for 16 to 18 times. Then we press over here underneath you can feel, fantastic. You kind of get a sense of it. And I see you using your middle finger. So either of the two would work. And in fact, the middle finger is our heart reflex as well. Okay. 16 to 18 times. And then on the top and bottom lip, either circulate in one direction 6 times, circling in the other direction, and then pressing. So that's called Shringataka Marma. Okay.
It's just amazing how really you're even just doing it so for such a short while. How amazing your face skills. But I love because definitely like with high Peter and being on a screen so often, my eyes get so tired, and just doing that really does help to relieve, and you can feel.
Absolutely. I mean, another typical one that people use, and we often sit and we think as this, or we get a tension headache, and then we press here. This is also a marma point, and you press it gently. So, ahimsa. So we're still touching ourselves with loving kindness and being aware that there's tension, but just gently working it out. And I love what you've done. You're releasing that tension by just flicking it away. You see how natural the body knows. We instinctually know about what buttons to press to make us feel better, okay? And that simple act of just relieving the tension and flicking it away, this is science that Ayurveda has to offer us by way of these energy or marma points that are on the face. There's several more than the ones I've shared with you, and then the rest of the body, okay? And as I said, I was performing this massage whilst learning about marma, so that I could contribute and do seva in the ashram to facilitate for my stay there. And then I was in Germany for a year, and we would have Ayurvedic doctors traveling from India to Germany, and I would assist in facilitating the appointment. So they give the diagnosis, and then they would suggest marma points, they would suggest treatment and some herbal treatment, herbal medicines which I hadn't learned. The herbal medicines I hadn't learned in Germany.
Okay.
So it was a bit a sort of, I felt out of my depth, and we're fortunate in Germany to get one-on-one consultations with Sri Ravi Shankar. If we found ourselves in India, hundreds and thousands of people come to the Indian ashram, and then you get booked per country. And in this case, I had a one-on-one consultation with with Sri Ravi Shankar, and he suggested I go off to Gujarat. At the time, our Sri Ayurveda in India, the university was not open, to my knowledge, and I went off to the Gujarat Ayurveda University. Okay. And that's where I learned further about the herbal medicines and why we work, the doctor doing the prescription and the practitioner performing the treatment. There are two arms to Ayurveda, as I understand it. There's the prevention side, and there is the treatment side of the disease. So as the practitioner, we are advocating and facilitating the prevention side of disease, right? So Ayurveda is a lifestyle, and I'm here to inspire, motivate, assist you with cooking and dietary and lifestyle choices in the prevention of disease. When I work with an Ayurvedic doctor, yes?
That is such an interesting distinction as well, because it is so important between these two, that actually you can take action now already with regards to lifestyle choices. That includes things like diet, daily habits, how we're thinking, how we're operating in the world, if we're following our dharma, if we're not, if we keep suppressing it. That's all, like you're saying, like on a practitioner level, like, what gets happened to prevent disease, because we can't just, like you experience in your life, disease doesn't just happen physically in the physical body. It's there, all the 5 koshas, all the 5 layers.
Yes,
and if you're not taking care of all 5 of those layers, you're going to end up with a severe chronic inflammation disease or something or another down that line. And that's what you're saying. Then Ayurveda, then there's like panchakarma, or you're going to see an Ayurvedic doctor for specific treatment for that. But before you get there, you really want to, hang out with someone like you or me, where we can prevent that kind of stuff happening.
Absolutely.
You really don't want to go down that route where
absolutely. Because the prevention is actually more fun and exciting,
of course,
you would agree, than in the treatment of that disease. Like now I've had some wonderful experiences I share in my book of how I've been able to get a hold of my dis-ease and transform that into healing, right? And that's just because that is my dharma, that is my conviction. I'm disciplined at the task, and I take it on, right? But not everybody's wired that way. So why get yourself into a state of dis-ease? Because it's a lot more work.
It is.
Then in the fun and joy of living an Ayurvedic lifestyle, maintaining balance, well-being in my life, understanding my dosha, understanding what drives me, what motivates me. I wake up in the morning and I'm here to serve. I'm very clear about that. And then I know what my other priorities are and where I put my energy, so that I'm not dissipating that vata creative nature into things that don't serve me, because they're not part of my value system. And we can assist yourself, can assist people through your coaching, and I do that through diet and lifestyle coaching. And so how we differentiate ourselves when we work with a doctor in the treatment of disease, and when I'm working here on my own in the prevention of disease. So as I have a qualification from Germany, at least from India, I have an independent qualification that allows me then to work with doctors, as I've done here in South Africa, and now I work with an Ayurvedic doctor in Rishikesh.
Lovely.
Thanks to Zoom. thanks to the lockdown, we found a way to make it work. And we facilitate these online consultations, and then I guide the client over a period of time, ideally 3 months. That's what it took me. I had my medicines when I returned back from India for 3 months. And that it takes that amount of time to get, to change your life, your diet, your circumstances.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, I find kind of like with me, I draw people into a year-long course where we work with lifestyles, habits for a year long, just because I find that because the environment we're in is so fluctuating. There's so much, like you're saying, vata dissipation, so much vata kind of like derangement in a sense happening, that actually if we have structure and for a longer period of time, no matter, whatever the highs or the lows are in whatever season we're in, we can actually use those practices no matter how small we make them or how large and, in depth. And like this morning I had a really nice like Abhyanga massage. That's why my hair is
beautiful. Yay.
But like I have Abhyanga time and the space to do it.
Yeah.
But it's not every morning that I have that.
Yes.
And it's kind of like that. Like as long as you're learning how to make space in your day for these basic principles and practices that we have in Ayurveda. Like, I don't know, so many people complain that they don't have time to do this and that next. I'm just like, well, you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
You got to get yourself sorted, because you can't say, I'm going to wait till my kids are older, or, I've moved, or this or that, because there's always going to be a reason to not take action. And what
absolutely,
I find, people don't take action, they end up having to deal with, like you say, an Ayurvedic doctor, or they're going to have something happen, God forbid, that's even kind of like worse, and have to go in for surgery but you just don't want to get there. It's not worth it.
No, I mean, and perhaps that's part of that individual's journey. But if we can inspire through our own stories, and that's why I've written a book, to inspire. So rather than reinvent the wheel, right? And I mean, teenagers, they say, oh, well, I'll learn my own lessons, right? And maybe that is the destiny for certain individuals. But if you're clever, you can also learn from other people's experiences and save yourself, and save yourself the pain and misery. And so that's why I decided to write a book, to share my
experience. Conversation is actually meant to be all about. So let's get there, because we went on such an amazing tangent and we played with the marma points and all. So I love the kind of like, that it is Ayurveda, and that you've had your journey in Germany, that you spend time in India, so it's all around. So now, why is this like a South African infused Ayurveda cookbook, or what kind of
So I do tell long stories, Nina. That's why we took so long with our first question. But we're in. So I qualified in 2010, and I was very lucky to be living next door to a South African Gujarati at the university in Gujarat. And she'd also come to study abroad. And in order to live and eat, we had to cook, right? So the two of us, we cooked. She taught me how to cook Ayurvedic food, traditional Ayurvedic Gujarati cooking. So that's thanks to Rashni. And then we would talk about when we were studying and when we were walking. So we followed Dinacharya, which is the daily regime, and we followed Ritacharya, which is the seasonal regime. We really, really embodied this lifestyle of Ayurveda, because we were supported in the university, as I was supported in the various ashrams I've lived. And we came back to South Africa and we facilitated cooking courses, Roshni and I, until at some point, and then I also fell pregnant shortly after my return, and at some point we went our separate ways, and I was also caught up with Stuart, my son, who's now 11. So I had another tool to give, and that is to do these cooking courses and to nourish myself in my changing circumstances, i.e. my pregnancy, and then being a new mother and embodying the lifestyle of Ayurveda, but with some truly like grounding like realities of being a mother and what is expected of us by way of putting our children first and their needs and dietary needs first. So I found a way to integrate all of that. Stuart was born vegetarian, and now we are both flexitarian. He decided at 5 that he didn't want to be a vegetarian anymore, and at the same time, at my 40s, I regressed and had I was in chronic pain for 2 years. I'd regressed in my spina bifida. I now have spondylosis in my neck and on the site of my spina bifida. Mm-hmm. So not only are they not fused, to be crude, but they're crumbling. My vertebrae are crumbling. And it's very typical for anybody in their 40s to have spondylosis. That is typical disease, especially because of the nature of our work. We're always looking down. If it's not at our computers, now it's our phones. I've just got this. Exactly. I've just got now a double whammy. So quite naturally, it's a cookbook because that's another piece of my arsenal that makes me a superwoman and a super mother to my boy, you know, that if I can nourish myself and I can plan our meals and I can be adaptable in terms of his need, then I can also, you know, providing to the best of my ability for both himself and myself. And Ayurveda is a lifestyle, and I have proven that you can live this lifestyle in the West.
Yeah.
So there's 7 sections.
Okay.
The first 4 sections of the book are typically Ayurvedic recipes. Mm-hmm. That which I learned in Germany, at least, in India. And then the remaining sections are superfoods, recipes. Yeah, so we're now cooking with more Western style ingredients, must-have recipes. And there were 7 tridoshic recipes that I really enjoyed cooking in my pregnancy and postnatally that I've included in my book. To make it more accessible, because there we're, you know, over the years of doing cooking courses, clients would say they wanted more variety or they didn't enjoy eating so much rice and dal. And so that's why those recipes had been formulated over the years. If not, when I went to, you know, travel and take a sabbatical and spend some time with my family in the UK, instead of sourcing out what was available in the UK shops and what I could cook with there, and inspire those with Ayurvedic spices.
Spices and herbs, yeah.
Yes.
Because I run like 3 clean eating challenges throughout the year, and kind of like people come to me and they think, I'm going to, you know, they're going to get a recipes and, you know, it's going to be this, that, and, you know, a certain way. And I first sit with them and I say, first of all, that's not what it's about, because clean eating, it just depends on you and what you're needing, because kind of like what Claire is needing, what Nina's needing, and what, you know, person X down the road who's watching it is needing is completely different for where we're at right now.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying about like the different foods, because like for some people, if they're wanting to maybe lighten their load, like something like khichdi is maybe just not for them right now. Maybe they're needing something lighter, like you're talking about, like the superfoods. Maybe they actually just need a little bit more of like energy boost in that. Maybe their system is that better. And if we think that we now have to do khichdi because that's the only Ayurvedic way to cleanse, and this is, and I really don't feel like eating. If you're already in that mindset that I don't want to eat this way, and you enter something, you're not going to get the benefits of it. So I love
this is true.
Saying that you've got like such a variety in there.
Yes.
And then at other times when there's high vata, I know like for me, like at the moment, because there's lots going on and moving around and stuff, like to have a bowl of khichdi is so lovely, nurturing and grounding.
Yes.
It just brings it down to it.
Yes.
So it's like knowing when to use these recipes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's about connecting to oneself, and experiencing. So I'm hoping that the readers gather from the book, when I explain how to use the book, that it's a journey. And if it takes them a year to discover what their dosha is, because they're following the journey with the seasons.
Yes.
So we start with a Prakriti assessment, so you can discover what your true nature is. But our nature changes even with the seasons. So at the moment, I'm not sure about you, Nina, but here in Johannesburg, we've got lots and lots of rain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so this is vata vitiating. My nature is vata, okay, and vata pitta. And so therefore, at the moment, the season is not nurturing and vitiating to my nature. Conversely, my guy who has got kapha in him, he's thriving in this environment, okay? And so you're cooking with so the first 4 sections are tridoshic, vata, pitta, and kapha. And so you take the journey, right? So even if your nature were of vata, and I'm just using this as an example. So your nature is vata pitta, right? Right now, as vata individuals, let's enjoy the vata meals, because it's suiting, it's going to ground us during this time. And then as the year goes by and the seasons change again and something else, so then kapha is accumulated in the springtime, and then we want to enjoy those kapha dominant meals, even though I might be a vata person. So, kapha pacifying meals, even though I am of vata constitution. So I'm hoping the reader gathers from how to use the book that all the recipes are in fact suited when prepared at the suitable time of the year.
I love how, and I just can't wait to get my hands on your book, because that I absolutely love that it's, because I think people get so stuck in the fact that, like, I'm a vata, or I'm a pitta, or I'm a vata pitta, or I'm a kapha, or whatever the story is, and I can only and they don't realize that, like, there's a bigger rhythm. Like, you got to check in what the season is doing, what the weather is doing, because that is going to have such a massive impact on you yourself. We're such small little thing in the whole macro.
Absolutely.
We get so influenced by the moon, the stars, the sun, the sea. And if we just kind of like have that really just such a small, perspective, and we think like, this is all I can eat and should eat and must eat, and we don't actually have a bigger look and be like, okay, well, it's, pitta season at the moment. Let me just play around with like some of the pitta reducing or balancing recipes and see how I react. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. An experiment and test it out. Because if you don't test,
absolutely. Yes, and hopefully coupled with a yoga or meditation practice where you are connecting to your source, where you are moving from your head to your heart, that you can, as you say, experience the food and make a decision, that sat well for me, or it didn't sit well for me, make another recipe. So that's why I've written that, I hope, very clearly in the book, so that people understand, whilst they are discovering their dosha, and it should take a period of time, that all of these recipes are accessible to you in that journey. And it's clearly laid out at the beginning of each section. And then we've got the fun recipes, as I said, must-have recipes, superfood recipes, and these tridoshic recipes that I used during my pregnancy. And then at the back of the book, we've got a recipe index. So if you just feel to cook breakfast, when we've got several options for breakfast, and then it doesn't have to be that this was specific to a dosha. These are my choices for a healthy Ayurvedic dessert. These are my choices for an interesting tea, perhaps, or beverage. So there, it gives the reader lots of choice. I believe all 37 recipes I enjoy. conscious of when I'm cooking them because they may vitiate me, and I know what agrees with me and what doesn't. So, and that's been over 10, 12 years that I've been able to discover that for myself, and why I feel I'm hoping that I've put it beautifully down on paper.
So it's pretty much
yes, it's a functional
12 years of your favorite recipes whittled down. I don't know how you probably managed to whittle that down to like 37 of the most effective and favorite ones. But also kind of like what it sounds, I think what I just like people to remember is that like as soon as you start to build a little bit of positive energy, you start to build resilience, and we can get out of this mindset of like, I can only eat this way or do this thing. It's like you said, then you can just open up any page, go to breakfast, have any breakfast that you're really drawn to, and it's not going to impact your system, because if you've got this ojas within you, even if it's not the most ideal thing for your constitution to eat, you'll still be able to digest it because you've got enough fire within you to
Absolutely. And I do at the beginning of the book explain the benefits of the spices and why we are using the spices to ignite that agni and to ease the digestion, so that the food that you're eating gives you life force energy rather than taking away from you because you've eaten too much or you've eaten incorrectly and such, So the basis of, and this is again the lifestyle of Ayurveda, food is our medicine in the prevention of disease.
We have another conversation on this, Claire, because I think you've also touched on, just how we eat, and kind of like that whole realm of that we find ourselves in with like overeating, emotionally eating, and I'll put my hands up, and I have done them all, and sometimes I do catch myself being in there. But I think we definitely need another conversation.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Right, so that would be one of our plans for 2023. What else is exciting you about 2023?
So where my book is concerned, we've had such a wonderful response to the book. I'm so very grateful. I had a pre-launch promotion and sold out on my books. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then we are currently in store, and we're in several Johannesburg and obviously in the northern suburbs stores to start with. As if I'm not a customer of theirs, I'm a supplier of theirs with my other business. So I tapped into my network of people that I knew and health stores. So I've been doing promos, and I will continue to expand into other health stores and broaden my reach. I will continue to do the cooking courses at the various yoga studios that I offer cooking courses. I'd like to expand those onto doing talks on parts of the book, because whilst it's called Living Ayurveda Cookbook, it's a lifestyle. And so there's a third of this book that is dedicated to the lifestyle of Ayurveda. So doing talks on the lifestyle. Again, I'm saying practices, Ritacharya, which is our seasonal practices, and giving talks on that, because we don't know much about that here in the West. The focus has always been around the food element of Ayurveda, and so I would like to do some talks and build the awareness of Ayurveda. We're currently the book is for sale on Takealot.
So that's where I'll be getting my copy through.
Fantastic. Yes, because it will be delivered to you. Fantastic, Nina. Amazon, when it comes into the country, it will be available, as well as our Divine store for Art of Living. So it will be accessible, hopefully, throughout the world, as we have a Divine store that's
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So massive congratulations. I love stories like this, which are just like so positive. And that your work is getting out there into all these areas, because I think it, like you say, like that the first pre-launch was sold out, brilliant. And I think it's what I'm hearing about and what I'm loving is that it's not just, just a recipe book, but actually it's broken down into these different sections with so much meaning and variation in them. But also it sounds like it's not complicated. Like I don't need to go out and get all these complicated things that I don't really know what they are, how to use them. It sounds really like doable.
Oh, totally. And that's the feedback that I continue to get, is that it is accessible, that it's inexpensive as well. And when there are very unique ingredients, if it's seaweed, for example, then, I'm clear to say what the benefits are, and such, and where you might be able to get it from. We have stores here in Johannesburg, but being specific about kombu and the benefits. So I have a glossary at the back of my book where I then give detailed information about ingredients, perhaps, or words like marma points, different body or diseases that I've then given more information about. So, it's because it needed to be accessible to me, as I've had so many changing experiences in my life. And fortunately, I've had feedback from customers over the years, if not through their consultations, definitely their cooking courses, telling me, we want more, or these are tricky ingredients to source, or whatever the case may be. Then I know, then I'm not going to include that recipe in my cookbook. As it's going around the world as well, it needs to be available throughout the world, and therefore I have a measurement. Excuse me, I'm just paging through the book to get the right how we say it, metric system. Is it? Yeah, units of measurements. The units of measurement, so that when people are reading this in the US, they know, or in Australia, they're going to be able to.
Won't you just hold the book for us so that you can show everyone what it looks like? And yay! Brilliant. Love it. So it sounds like you're going to definitely have a really nice, busy year ahead. I know we could probably go on and on. I think we've nearly spoken for an hour. So
yeah,
which is lovely, because I could pick your brain about loads of things. So Claire, apart from your website, Claire to Clarity, which I love, .co.za, I love that name, Claire to Clarity.co.za. I'm assuming that that's where people can find you, mainly connect with you. Anywhere else?
Certainly, yeah. My website is a good place to start, as you will read more about the cookbook, my journey in short form, the consultations I offer, the cooking courses I offer. There's a link on my website to my YouTube channel. So a third of these recipes are available on my YouTube channel. Wow. So that you can cook with me in your kitchen. The QR codes are then available in the book to then snap and cook with me in your kitchen. There's a link on. Yeah, absolutely. So never too far away. Then we've got a link to my Facebook page, which is also Claire to Clarity. And then we have a Facebook group called Living Ayurveda Cookbook. So that's a pretty interactive group where people can even share on my group. I welcome that. If you're inspired by Ayurveda, you have your own offering. It's a community that I'm intending on growing. That's part of my sankalpa, was to share this lifestyle of Ayurveda in a form that as our Western minds could grasp and live this lifestyle, and then to build on and build that community and build awareness to Ayurveda. And we do that through each other, sharing our experiences, because I'm not the only one that has a wonderful story to tell about Ayurveda and how it's touched my life. So we have an interactive group. Living Ayurveda. And then, yeah, it's available for purchase off my my store.
Awesome.
The book, or as in your case, you're going to get it from Takealot.
Love it. Love it. Claire, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for entertaining everyone who's watching. And guys, be watching, go out, go get the book for everyone's Christmas present this year.
Yes, please. That'll be wonderful.
Supporting creativity, and it's something that is really going to nurture and nourish you. It's not just a fleeting, passing, entertaining, I don't know, movie or something like that. It's something.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a lifetime investment.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
Thank you so much, Nina. Much appreciated. Namaste.
Lots of love.
Namaste. Lots of love to you. Namaste.
Namaste.